So today, we're going to break down the track All That You Know. Like how I've done before in the other breakdowns, we're going to do some pausing here and there, and I get to explain the process, whether it's the music of it all or if it's the lyrics, and we're just going to have a lot of fun because there's going to be a lot of pauses on this one. So without further ado, here's All That You Know. The idea behind All That You Know was really I just wanted to write like a fun indie surf song, if that makes any sense. However, I wanted to make it feel a little old school, almost like a Beach Boys vibe. So, jammed out to a lot of Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are favorite oldies of mine. And I also just, jammed out to a lot of modern indie music today and eventually just came up with an idea. Now, what really sparked off this idea was that a friend of mine, she texted me one day. I forgot what the conversation was, but I think it was just like out of the blue where she was like, hey, write a song that has claps in it. And, like every other 2010 indie song, there's always claps, whether it's the beginning, chorus, all these, like they literally just throw them anywhere. So I thought, hey, that would just be a fun idea just to kind of throw in as a reference to like a lot of indie music that I had listened to back in the day. The way I came up with this song, just to like give more detail about it, I really, like I've said before, I wanted to keep the chord progression pretty strict and pretty minimal. This one is probably like the most minimal chord progression I've done. However, majority of the time, I'm just playing in between the chord of G and the chord of C. The only time I use the D chord is when I'm transitioning from the chorus to like a little break into the second verse, and then I'll use it on the instrumental / outro. And that's really it. So it's not like it's just back and forth. I'm just playing G and C with different voicings. That way it sounds different. But yeah, I'm just playing those chords over and over again. I believe in the beginning, I'm playing a standard, like a G natural chord, and then I'm playing some sort of version of a C. I'm not entirely sure. So I just wanted to add in like a different flavor to that C chord instead of playing just a straight C bar chord.
Grace I extend you, much to relay. Burdens we carry, the feel of wood grain. Focus corrected, vision defined. Good traveler's hand is cast aside.
The reason why I mentioned at the beginning that we're gonna be taking a lot of pauses, it's mainly due to the lyric content. I wrote this song, I believe in 2020, maybe 2021. Regardless, the world, as it is now still, was kind of like going on a downhill. This song is mainly written due to the hypocrisy of Christianity, I feel. When I wrote this in 2020, 2021, there was a lot of like, we've all been through it. A lot of like just stuff going on. I'm just gonna keep it at that, stuff. And I wasn't really proud of, or granted, I'm not proud of the way Christians, specifically in the Western culture, have taken a stance on a lot of things nowadays. It very much goes against what I was raised and what I was taught growing up in the church. It wasn't until 2020 when COVID hit that I kind of just took a step back and just, you started to see the veil being lifted from, I wouldn't throw every Christian under that umbrella, but a lot of people were kind of like talking really, really loud, and it puts the Christian group in a bad light. And as long as it continues to do so, it's really hard to back up that group. Granted, I'm not saying I'm not a Christian. I, believe that, there is God, but I also believe in loving your neighbor, and I feel that we're not doing that. And so it's kind of hard to be like, hey, like I'm one of these people, but I'm also not. When I started writing these lyrics, I was pretty upset, and I didn't want to come off as upset. I wanted to come off as meaningful with these lyrics. I didn't want to just throw hatred or say, you know, like these people suck, yada yada yada. I feel like there's a clever way to kind of like just write about this. So yeah, writing the lyrics of "Grace I extend you, much to relay, burdens we carry, the feel of wood grain." It's talking about, you know, a conversation that, you know, two people are trying to have, and the feel of wood grain is just like a reflection of the cross that, you know, us Christians carry. It's not necessarily a burden, but it's also not necessarily something to prop ourselves up. No pun intended. Focus corrected, vision defined, good traveler's hand is cast aside, which is the next set of lyrics. It talks about, you know, adjusting your perspective. But unfortunately, this perspective is being adjusted in a poor way, in which, you know, in the Bible, it talks about, you know, the Good Samaritan, in which people pass him by while, you know, he's down and out on the side of the road. It's like a really rough way of putting it. And people pass him up till the very end. Somebody, you know, helps him out. What I'm trying to convey is that Christians nowadays are being those people that, instead of helping out the Good Samaritan, doesn't matter like who he is, you're helping out a person in need. In this case, we're, you know, slapping his hand away and refusing to help him. That's like the best way I thought I could put that idea out there.
But you sow all your woe, oh, ohs, you don't know what you grow, oh, oh, there goes the glow, oh, oh, with all that you know. But you sow all your woe, oh, ohs, you don't know what you grow, oh, oh, there goes the glow, oh, oh, with all that you know.
When it comes to these lyrics for the chorus, it's "But you sow all your woes, you don't know what you grow. There goes the glow of all that you know." Taking it back to Bible school and whatever I was taken to as a kid, a lot of the times we've been, you know, preached to that there's even like a passage in the Bible that kind of like talks about that. In churches, they would tell us that, you know, basically just like be a good person. Basically like you reap what you sow. So go out and be a good person, be kind, be loving, and all these things. And I just thought that was really, really funny in comparison to, you know, Christianity today. So I figured, let's write that in. I wanted to just kind of like show how would it be if it was flipped around, in which you're a bad person, you're being rude, you're being mean, you're being all these things that you shouldn't be, but yet you're expecting a reward out of it. And in which case, you're shocked that you're not getting a reward. So that's where the idea of saying there goes the glow of all that you know, and realizing, or maybe not realizing, or just being in that mindset of just what's going on. And I that's what I wanted to really like portray with this chorus. And I just wanted to like add in a clever spin of adding stories and things I've learned in Bible school or whatever, church, Sunday school, whatever it is. I just wanted to make a comparison of what was taught versus what's being done now. And a lot of it is like from the same people too. Like it's kind of crazy. Like some people that taught you be kind, be loving, be caring, and all this stuff, love your neighbor, are oftentimes like a lot of the people that are right now being like really ugly. It's crazy. It's mind blowing. Like it's, you know, you see it all over social media and you're just like, okay. So that's why I wanted to write that.
The word should be heard. The thread of perspective, self-incurred. Love of thy neighbor has been taught. Not turning the cheek has all been for naught. But you.
So here, I remember writing this. I was having like a little bit of issues with the second verse, only because I remember writing like the first part. I thought it was really clever to write in, crown for the kingdom, the word should be heard, which is like what a lot of Christians believe in. They believe in, you know, preaching the gospel, in which, hey, like, I'm all for it. If people want to listen, sure, like there's definitely no harm in that. It's more so when like you're forcing it down people's throats that shouldn't be done. But anyway, then the next line is the thread of perspective, self-incurred. I had a little bit of like, it was hard for me to write that because I'm not gonna lie, I was spitballing there. Thread of perspective, easy, jotted down. But then the next section, to make it rhyme, that was also still meaningful, that was hard. I didn't even know, or at least I don't think I knew of the word incurred or self-incurred. It just sounded right. And I even texted a friend just to be like, hey man, you know more words than me. Is this a thing? And I even double checked on Google, but you know, sometimes Google is Google. So I checked with him and he was like, yeah, no, I'm good. So I was like, all right, cool. It came out the way I intended to use it by definition. So great with that. And then adding in the line of love of thy neighbor has been taught. Every Sunday school was always, you know, talking about loving thy neighbor, which I understand because we're kids. But even growing up and being involved in the worship team for kids service, for youth service, for like the college services that we had, and then eventually for like the main adults, it's always been the same message. So it's just like really interesting how things have deviated from that. And in the next line, I kind of ran into the same issue. I did want to add in a reference to, you know, as Christians, we're taught to like turn the other cheek. I wrote that line in it, and it was just kind of hard to tie in. And it was just hard to tie in a vocabulary word that would go along with the flow. However, this time I didn't reach out to my friend. I trusted the process, and turned out the word I decided to use was in fact definition proper. So when I threw it in, I sent my friend, you know, a rough draft of the lyrics. This was the first song that I've really pushed myself lyrically. I just wanted to make sure that the words were used in the proper sense. Everything was good to go, so I said, great, we are gonna record this thing.
So all your woes, you don't know what you grow. There goes the glow. With all that you know. But you sow all your woes, you don't know what you grow. There goes the glow. With all that you know.
So here I want to talk about the music, because I think for the most part, I've been talking about the lyrics for this breakdown. So I just wanted to like just chat about the music a little bit. Like I mentioned before, I'm just playing the chords G and C over and over again, and the chord D whenever there's like a nice transition. I will say guitar stuff was pretty simple. That was the thought process. I wasn't too crazy about it, but I think it did fit because I wanted the bass and the drums to like really punch this one. And I also wanted the lyrics to like just really stand out even more. That's why I simplified a lot of the guitars. As for the bass though, on the chorus, you know, the first part, it just, you know, on the first part, it's just the note G and C back and forth. But then on the second half on the chorus, I started to, you know, really, you know, just like groove on that. And when I was grooving, when I first wrote that part, I wasn't gonna keep it only because it felt a little too familiar, almost like a certain like early 2000s song. It just sounds like that. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know if it was like in a commercial and I'm just like using it here. I have no clue, but it just sounds familiar and I have no idea where it's from. And maybe I'm just making it up, and it is what it is, and it's all original. But I just don't know where I came up with that bass line concept. So that's why when I played it over the guitars, I thought, hey, like this is actually really catchy. It punches the chorus to be like a little bit more driven, but not too driven to where it's like guitar distortions and all this stuff. Like it's still kept pretty light. And it felt a little surfy too. So I really like that. So I decided I didn't want to add in a chorus, and I kind of just wanted to make a really cool instrumental and just like really jam in it and then slowly fade out. And so that's what I did. I really wanted to jam on this instrumental and not worry about too many things. So, you know, live, it would be a lot of fun to just really dig into the guitars and the bass. I wanted to add in the bells and play the melody in a higher octave. That way it just stands out on the song versus being kind of muddied in the mix if it was at a lower octave. And the last element I really added to the song was just the pa-pas. Because if Mark Hoppus can have the na-nas, or the na-na-nas, I can have the pa-pas. So, a little Blink-182 reference in an indie rock song, why not? I just went for it. Didn't really have a lot of thought into it. Didn't sound bad. It definitely adds in, texture to the song that doesn't really flood the guitars or flood the bells. Like, everything is in its own space. So it kind of just like really worked out. So yeah, the song was like really, really simple to make. It went by really, really quick. It was a blast recording this thing. So thanks for joining on this breakdown of All That You Know. I'll be working on other breakdowns in the meantime. And until then, see you later.